When the seagulls follow the troll, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares, mate, honestly.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. I've never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, it's the Monday Club. We are back. What is happening? Welcome aboard the Boyce'S. Bus had a wee day off yesterday, but now I'm back after, I think, another record-breaking amount of hours of content over the weekend. I did 3 hours, 15 minutes with Phil and Liam on Friday. I did 2 hours, two hours live streaming during the game, Jonathan, on Saturday.
Yes.
And two and a bit hours with Terry after that. Yesterday, I put my feet up and watched the Sunday Blether, and boy, was it a good show. But it's all about the League Cup this weekend, Jonathan, because guess what? Yesterday, Mickey Beale, the motor mouth that he is, got his wish. And that is, he gets one more chance, Jonathan, to make himself famous. Instead, it's not going to go that way, though. February 26th League Cup final. Tick-tock, Mickey Beale. Because don't mess with the best, because the best don't mess. It's that simple, Jonathan. And I think he has got a big fall left in him. And the big fall now looks to me like it's been earmarked for the National Stadium. Earmarked for Ange to retain the League Cup. And earmarked for Mickey Beale and his smug smile to fall off a cliff. Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. What's happening, Jonathan? How's you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I think the last week on the bus, Russell, has been a lot more about politics. I think I've been hearing a lot this week. Not quite Holyrood 4 p.m, not quite as good as Superstore 4 p.m, is it? Political correctness and all this sort of politics seems to be doing the rounds at the moment. Remember, this weekend is going to go down in history in Scottish football, Russell, as the weekend where Celtic finally got a VAR decision in their favour. And this is the weekend.
Clocks.
This is the weekend that we are now going to be going back to again and again and again over the next few weeks for any other decision, any other time we want to have a grumble about VAR. People are now going to go back and talk about this penalty that Kilmarnock never got, and we're poor Derek McGuinness and how he just wanted his penalty and he never got his penalty. And this is really what they're going to be talking about this weekend. The performance on the park, it was fine. We got the job done. Semi-finals can be untidy affairs. But for me, it's going to be one of those moments where Mikey Beale is already starting to set the table and even bringing VAR into it himself and trying to make it all about, well, Celtic have complained this much about it. They finally got one. And that is now what the whole narrative is going to be for the rest of this season. And it was always inevitable something like that was going to happen. But onto the football, and I'm quite happy it's Rangers in the final. I'm quite happy to play Rangers in the final. I don't feel we did ourselves justice when we played them at Ibrox. I think we've given them a false sense of confidence after that game at Ibrox. And I will look forward to putting them back in their little box at Ibrox when we play them and beat them. And I'm going to go out there and say this now. I think we'll beat them convincingly on February the 26th.
I love it, Jonathan. What an intro. That's just so good. It gets me right in the mood. FJT's loving it, mate. Look at that. Welcome aboard the bus, FJT. These openings just get better and better. Jonathan, it is all set up now for the greatest fall of all time for this guy, because I'm going to go one further. I think he'll have lost further ground in the league race as well by the time this game comes around. I think he has set himself up for all of this to go Pete Tong for him. And yesterday, his smug wee remark, let's be honest, leave that sort of thing to Ange. What was it Ange said? I've already seen it come up in the comments. It was brilliant. You know, John Duncan.
Oh, the luck runs back on the team is what he was saying. Oh, I'm just a lucky man, mate.
Lucky man with a beautiful family.
Must be filtering through to the team now.
He's right.
Can't be helped.
So good. So, yeah, I mean, I would leave the quips to the guy who's 9 points, 20 goals clear in the league. Do you know what I mean?
And actually has a few brain cells, Russell. I think that helps as well. Brain cells definitely help if you're playing that game.
Pick your rivals wisely in life, Jonathan. And I think going out on a limb like Mickey Beale, whatever we call him, Mickey Bo Peep for all I care, I think he's picked the wrong guy to be doing this with. And, you know, there's a wee bit of naivety. You get that with rookie managers, Jonathan, who aren't long in the business. So that is what the outcome of the weekend's fixtures was in the League Cup. We've been left with a date of destiny on the 26th of February. A wee bit added spice. And I'm agreeing with you, Jonathan. I was kind of a wee bit... Don't get me wrong, I love the comedy value of Aberdeen going ahead. And if Aberdeen had won, we would have opened the show with a lot of laughter, and it would have been great. But deep down, I'm quite happy. It's them. You were at the game. Talk to me about your Hampden experience, Jonathan.
Well, yeah, I was at the game. I mean, I'd have probably been better off watching your live stream, to be honest, with the fucking view I had at Hampden. Jeezy peeps, man, as that Arbroath commentator said, I've not been this far back at a stadium in years. I was like, where the hell am I? I'm like, this is ridiculous. You can only see about one half of football in there. Pitch was an absolute disgrace as well. But, you know, in terms of the actual game, I would say I was probably one of the calmest people in the Celtic section. I'd been well oiled up throughout the day. I'd had a few Long Island iced teas, we can of dragon soup to get myself through. I was feeling pretty perky at 5:30.
You were channeling your inner Monday club, Jonathan. That's what I would have done.
I was like, I was very perky about 5:30. I was like, we got 1-0 up fairly early. I was thinking this is going quite well. Kyle Lafferty has a howler, excellent. I was like, you couldn't have written a better script for the wee poor man coming back after doing his wee jumping jacks outside Derek McInnes's office for the last 10 days. That was a story written in Hollywood, if you ask me, how that played out. And then we get to the second half and we score another 2 that I was convinced had counted, because I was obviously still in a nice delirious state from my drinking before the game. And you know, there's this penalty appeal towards the end, and I'm thinking, why are people around me getting so antsy? It's like it's 3-0 anyway. They score this, they make it 3-1. Why are we cheering? It's like I didn't know everyone had so much money on a Joe Hart clean sheet today. Hey. And then lo and behold, we end up we end up finding out when I get to the ground, it's like, oh fuck, we only won this game 2. It was a fucking last minute goal they actually needed to make it comfortable.
Oh, we should have cut over to live reporting from Hampden Stadium whilst I was doing fan camp. Jonathan, tell us a bit about the game. 6-0 Celtic, brilliant display so far. Jonathan, it's 1-0. Eh? But you know, we went to Celtic Park. You and your mate Conan a couple of months ago, and I did set the tone by taking you to the it took you to the old Hard Rock Cafe on Buchanan Street, and says this is how you start. You start the day with 2 or 3 Long Island iced teas, and then that's it. The rest of the day, I didn't know you were adding dragon soup to the mix as well, mate. Absolutely brilliant. I'm so impressed.
Deadly combination. Wouldn't recommend it for anyone. Please drink responsibly.
Oh yeah. But Jonathan,
other beverages are available.
The penalty thing, I mean, we could go straight into that if you want, mate, because do you know what? I'm going to just be completely biased here. I think it probably is a penalty, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as what people are making out. I've watched it loads of times. I'm like, I don't think it's quite as blatant as what's being made out, and I don't think it's as glaring or as clear an obvious error as what's been sort of portrayed now. And I certainly don't think it comes anywhere near to comparison to some of the fucking nonsense I've seen. Do I think it's a penalty? Yes, I do. Now the Blue Baron is coming in, right? This is what I love. I love it when people do this, Jonathan. So look, he's came in saying Celtic fans, when the decision goes against them with a wee teary face. He's forgotten he's put that. Look how angry he is straight away. Fucking Stonewall penalty. All the same tone. Oh, Blue Baron. I am laughing that up, mate. That's brilliant. Look, here he goes again.
Is that Michael Beale's account by any chance? Does he go on to the Elias? The Blue Baron. They seem like they'd get on quite well, the two of them.
It must be, but Blue Baron never changed, mate. That was very good. From 1 minute being a smart ass to the next one, fucking Stonewall penalty, man. I don't think it was quite as Stonewall. Do I think it was a penalty? Do I think VAR should have looked at it? That's the interesting bit, because they've obviously decided they didn't feel it was worth looking at, which means their initial reaction to it was it's not as obvious as what 14 different angles of a replay that people have now looked at since. I do think it was clumsy for Giakoumakis. The narrative of rugby tackle to the ground and stuff, it's like, geez, peace, sit down, calm down. That didn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
It was strange because I went and actually watched the highlights back naturally because I had no idea what the fuck happened when it was in the ground. But when I watched them back, SPFL have their own highlights package on YouTube, and they don't actually cover the penalty incident in that highlight package. So I mean that tells you something, that if they didn't think it was even worthy of making the highlights, that some people are probably thinking it's not a penalty. It's not a penalty. I mean, for me, I was behind that goal where that happened, and it looked clumsy. It looked a penalty from where we were all sitting. I think everyone was kind of half expecting it to be awarded. I've seen it back. I still think I'd probably bounce it up and down, to be perfectly honest. If that was in the other end of the pitch and we never got it and it cost us the game, I think I would have been pretty unhappy about it. If we're being fair on that one, I think it probably is a penalty. However, Celtic had so many shite decisions go against them, and we keep getting told it's going to even itself up at some point, guys. Well, we're probably still due it in our 5, to be perfectly honest with you, if we're going to even things up properly.
Let's just clear something up as well. Giakoumakis goes up the park and scores anyway. He would have done that if he'd given away a penalty or not.
Aye, exactly. I mean, I'm convinced even if they'd got the penalty and it went to extra time, Celtic would have found a way to win in extra time if it came to it anyway. And to be honest, I think it's kind of almost taken away a little bit from how we were playing. I think, to be honest, we were pretty comfortable most of the parts. I mean, I think Kilmarnock gave us more of a game, perhaps, than I expected them to. I don't think they sat in quite as deep and weren't quite as defensive as what a McInnes production sometimes is when he comes up against Celtic. But, all that being said, the pitch was a disgrace for the National Football Stadium. I think that's the worst I've seen it, and that's unacceptable completely as far as I'm concerned, because it's not even as if Queen's Park are playing on that no more. Nobody is on that pitch, so it's absolutely scandalous that the SFA haven't had that fit for purpose. And I watched bits of the Aberdeen Rangers game yesterday, and it was even more cut up because of all the rain and obviously the fact they've been a game of football on it before. It's actually embarrassing, but it's typical Scottish football. There's always got to be something going on when we get to the latter stages of cup tournaments where we end up with somebody making a fool of themselves. And unfortunately, on this occasion, it is whoever is in charge of looking after that pitch, because it was a dump.
Jonathan, what do you think, just quickly on the pitch? Let's talk about that, because, again, I have got impressions that certain aspects of Scottish football Ange hasn't been overly impressed with. I think he's very impressed with Celtic. I think he thinks he's on to a winner here. He thinks that he thinks we've maybe missed the boat a wee bit at times of realising our potential. And he's like, I can see the potential quite easily what we could achieve with this club. But I think other aspects of Scottish football has baffled him at times. I think some of the standards of play has been below his expectations, I think. I've said several times about his apparent lack of interest in any other SPFL player apart from a backup goalkeeper to be pretty damning. Usually within 18 months, the Celtic managers sort of been looking at least around the domestic league for maybe a signing or two. It doesn't seem like it's even on his radar. I thought the weekend is another thing to add to Ange's sort of disappointment in Scottish football at times. I mean, he did touch on it in his post-match interview as well. You know, this is the fucking National Stadium, Jonathan. They don't have Queen's Park playing on it, I don't think, every week anymore either.
They don't anymore. They've got their own place now.
How can it be that bad? Like, who's on that in between? What have they got going on in there? The Scottish Claymores right now or something? What's happening? It's an absolute dive. And I was
thinking they must have had a gig or something on there, but I was thinking they didn't have a gig in December either. So what on earth have they actually been doing?
Yeah, I mean, I just think in this day and age, when you look at some of the pitches as well around the country that are by far like small clubs, Jonathan, bottom league clubs, etc., and they're like bowling ones, and they're being played on once, twice a week. I don't think there's any excuse for that. And by the way, let's not start complaining about lack of TV money, etc. When you get gigs like the Viaplay one that we've got right now and say, oh, they're undervaluing the game, they don't invest in us. That's what we offer back up from our end. That's what you got. So cheers for buying the rights. Here's a cut-up pitch. What a spectacle that is. Blue chip. It's embarrassing for a League Cup semi-finals, two of them, to be played in conditions like that. I think it's really embarrassing. They've got just over a month to sort that. Let's get one thing clear as well, though, Jonathan. The weather ain't going to improve in the next 5 weeks drastically between now and then. So whatever it is they've been doing so far, they're going to need to change their tactics with it, because right now, I think that's about the only thing that puts any sort of doubt in my mind about how the outcome of the 26th final would be the pitch to be in that sort of nick, because it's just unacceptable for the National Stadium showpiece games being played on that. And actually, see, to be honest with you, you know that Viaplay goes around the UK. Any of our neighbouring countries in Wales, England, whatever, watching that, I think you should be a wee bit embarrassed.
Oh, they will be 100% if they don't get that pitch up to speed. But Celtic Rangers games attract a larger audience. You need to have that pitch sorted for that. You don't want to be playing a showcase cup final between the two best teams in Scotland and then to be presenting it with a pitch in that sort of condition, because people will just laugh at you that wouldn't normally watch. They'll be thinking, this is exactly what we thought. Farmers League is what we're sometimes referred to, and that was a farmers field we were playing on at the weekend there. So I have no problem with Postecoglou calling that out in his post-match. He actually tries to make a point to say he's not trying to complain too much about it, because the media, they're actually trying to grill him quite hard on it and try and get him to make it sound like it was an excuse for Celtic not killing the game earlier was down to the pitch. And he was like, no, it wasn't down to that, but it certainly was a case that disappointed with how bad the pitch was. And he actually refers to Motherwell as well in it, because Motherwell's pitch, if you remember back with 10, 15 years, it used to be terrible, Motherwell's pitch, but they seem to have managed to work things out at their house to make sure their pitch is in order. If clubs like Motherwell can do it, then there's absolutely no excuse for the SFA not to have the National Stadium, which, let's face it, doesn't have that much football played on it anymore, with Queen's Park not being on it. You've got the occasional Scotland game on it, and then you've got the cups that are played there. So how on earth they can let the pitch get to that state, I have no idea. And the thing that's concerning for me is, surely they must be looking at this and thinking, that's nowhere fucking near good enough. Like, have a bit of pride in your job, whoever's going to be doing that, because it's just ridiculous. You can walk out there.
Are you aware you nearly turned into Roy Keane there? Have a bit of pride in your job. It's just ridiculous. Have a bit of pride in your job. It's just ridiculous. I mean, do me a favour.
It's unbelievable.
He's
It's
in Cuckoo Land,
unbelievable.
that groundsman. He's in Cuckoo Land, living with the birds.
Well, it's just ridiculous, Russell. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I was just going to segue into him a wee bit because I was getting that
You
irate
were.
about it. I think it was just that's how it just happens naturally. You just go towards Roy Keane when you're getting a bit worked up over something. But that's fucking nonsense. How bad it was. It was, yeah. I mean, amateur hour doesn't even begin to describe it. And for me, if they're not looking at that pitch and thinking, okay, we've got 5-6 weeks, whatever it is, to get that sorted, that should be the top of the SFA's priority list, as long as making sure, obviously, their VAR and everything else is working, because they did have another cock up in the semi-final yesterday. I was watching it in the pub and I had fucking no idea what was going on. I was just like, what the fuck are they
Sounds
going
like,
over to the monitor for?
sounds like you've not watched much football over the weekend, Jonathan, for someone who
I
watched
kind of feel like,
the
you know,
Celtic game. And
I feel like a bit like
Italian.
I feel a bit like Chris Kamara, you know, that Portsmouth game years ago where they just go, it's been a red card. No, I've never seen that. never seen that at all. Yes, but I mean, between having a bit of alcohol in my body and the just baffling decisions across the weekend, then yes, it's maybe not been my finest ones for watching football, but I look at it and I think when you're going to play a National Cup final, if they can't get that addressed and sorted out, then quite frankly, they'd almost be as well moving it. I don't want to be playing that on a potato patch, because that's what it's like at the moment. It's just ridiculous.
That's a joke. It's a joke. Steve O'Mac comes in. Brilliant. Steve made his second appearance on Friday on Bustalgia. He was very good. Good lad. And he's saying, Boyce, can we bring up the fact there was goal line technology in the Cup semi-final?
Was there, Steve? I never seen that.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a clue. I'll keep you right, Jonathan. But it was shown for the header, but it's not in the league. What's all that about? So who's investing in the goal line technology aspect when it's the Cups? Is that a Viaplay thing? I really don't know. Because
they've had that for a few years, though, haven't they? The Cups have had them. They had it under Lennon. The COVID season, I vaguely remember, was there not a goal, I think, given in the game against Hearts? Nobody cares about that Scottish Cup final, mate. But nobody cares about it. The one under Lennon that was played in front of no crowd. I think that had technology involved. I think that might have been the first Cup final that it was involved in. But it does seem strange. I think they can afford to put it in at Hampden, I think was their argument. But they can't afford to put it in at any of the other stadiums because this is Scotland and we don't like to be joined up with any approach to anything whatsoever.
Well, this is the other thing though, Jonathan, because there was another strange thing about VAR. It stopped working yesterday. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did notice that. And
what did you make of that? Is it? And by the way, I'm not here because saying this because it's this is a part of the conspiracy. This is a genuine question. Has anyone else got any example they can give of any game they've watched from any league where the VAR's broke down midway through it? I don't know. I've never heard of it before, so I'm just asking the question. So if anyone can enlighten us, has that happened? Is there any other example of that? I've never heard of that happening.
I've never seen it before, and as I say, we were in the pub watching it, and they didn't have the live commentary on. They had music on instead, so you didn't have a clue what was going on at all. So you were just seeing the referee going over to the monitor, thinking, "What the fuck's he checking?" Because and it must have been the same for the people in the stadium. To be completely fair to them as well, my Declan, who lives with me, he's Aberdeen fan, a good friend of mine, and he was at the game, and he said that he had no idea what the hell was going on either. So it's a bit ridiculous when you're looking at that.
It's another embarrassing aspect though of it. Bear in mind, I'm going to give you two examples about VAR. These aren't about, well, one of them kind of was involved in a Celtic decision, of course it was. The two examples of VAR that I find are absolutely mind-blowing to have happened in the first 3 months of it, 4 months, whatever it's been. The VAR breaks midway through a cup semi-final, right, for 10 minutes. Obviously, something happens during that time with Ryan Kent. They can't follow up. That's fine. Whatever. They can't predict that's going to happen during that time, right? So we'll not go too deep on that. But VAR stopped working. And then there was the example of VAR had its camera not on the pitch, but at the dugouts for during one of our games. Again, this isn't me going, what do you think it all means? I'm talking about the quality of what we're getting for our money. Let's get one thing abundantly clear here. Celtic pay more than any other team in the country for this. We paid, we forked out for this more than anyone else. What is it we're paying for, Jonathan? Because those two examples I've just given there are absolutely amateur hour Sunday league shite.
But I mean, the funniest thing is, it's probably not unexpected either. That's just the way of Scottish football. Can you say you're that surprised? Probably not, but it is. It's madness how you can end up in a position where I don't even know how the VAR can possibly fail during a match. I don't really understand the mechanics behind that. It's like, what was the actual script? Was it like the monitor just went? Because I don't really get that.
VAR, what they just said, they announced the return VAR won't be working. And then about 10 minutes later, they put another announcement over the tannoy saying VAR is now back working or something and now being actively used again. I'm like,
God, yeah. It's like the wrestling and the VAR making a comeback.
It's embarrassing, man. I just think, see, sometimes I think we spoke about this before the VAR came in. I think realistically, we should have went, see if we're going to do VAR, get the good one. I remember I said to you at the time, the biggest problem with this VAR that we're getting is it's the same Muppets running it that can't run a football game now. So more of them, brilliant. More lunatics in the asylum. Do you know what I mean? It just makes no sense, right? I said we'll need to fork out the extra and get the actual proper VAR in. Yep. Instead, I think we've seen some really embarrassing moments with it so far right now. And this isn't even me talking about the Celtic decisions. We could dedicate a show to that. I think genuinely, like for the service, like the VAR, like to be on the dugout, just looking at the manager picking his nose instead of on the offside potential decision, for VAR to be breaking at finals, for there to be goal line technology in cup games but not in league games. I just think they've made it. I think they've wanted to tick a box as opposed to actually there's been any real duty of care with, are we bringing in a VAR to impact our game positively, or have we just brought in VAR to say we've got VAR? That's where I'm at on it, Jonathan.
It's a muddle. The whole thing's a muddle with what they bring into and what they don't. I don't actually know what the situation is in terms of cameras either at Hampden, because I think it's 6 they have in the league, I think, roughly, rather than having as many as they possibly can. Because I know, obviously, at places like Celtic Park and Ibrox, they have more scope to put more cameras in. I think the cameras they're not even in the right places behind both the goals. I don't think either in league matches. It'd be interesting at Hampden, because I don't know if they allow for more cameras there. Certainly you would think when it gets to a National Cup semi-final and then indeed final to come, they would want to have as much assistance there for the referees, because God knows they fucking need it. They need as much assistance as they can fucking get. But you're right, when you're looking at it, I have no faith whoever gets that cup final next month, I have absolutely no faith that they'll do a competent job. And once again, there's every chance VAR can steal the show there as well, which it quite regularly does during the weeks. And it's just that it's the long pauses, with it as well. When you're in the stadium, it actually takes quite a lot away. It's certainly more, I feel, designed for people when they're watching it at home. They at least have a bit better idea of what's happening. If you're in the ground, particularly at fucking Hampden, and you're watching goals the other end of the pitch that you can't see without a pair of fucking binoculars, then you've got absolutely no chance when they're making VAR calls as well. And actually, it dilutes the game a bit for me. So in some ways, I think we'd almost been better just not bothering with it, which was kind of my initial thought to begin with. Because since it's came in, it's probably done us more damage than good. In fact, it almost certainly has. But as I say, at that weekend there, that's the first time we've probably got the benefit from it. And you'll never hear the end of that. That'll be us now till the end of the season. We'll have to ride the fact we never gave away a penalty against Kilmarnock. And that is it evening itself out, despite all the other decisions that we've had thus far. But I don't actually think it's not an anti-Celtic thing for me. It's absolutely just total incompetence. Totally waste of time. I think they've rushed it in because the original plan, if you remember, Russell, was they weren't planning on bringing it in until around now. And then they brought it in earlier. And I just kind of feel if you're going to do it, you don't bring in VAR in the middle of a season. You could bring it in for the Cups if you want. Bring it in for the Cup semi-finals.
That was odd, wasn't it? That was odd as well, because then you've got, when all said and done and 38 league games have been played, you've got a percentage of them that weren't done with VAR, a percentage that were, and that's not, every game should be starting with the same sort of levels of rules and authority on them as the other. Otherwise, it's a bit odd. But we'll move on to matters Celtic, Jonathan. We could talk about VAR forever. It's all a bit boring. Let's talk about the World Cup. The World Cup has been a game changer for Celtic. It's bizarre how it's all worked out. we got very excited because the first World Cup link that we had was Alistair Johnston of Canada. In fact, that became pretty concrete pretty quickly. And on the back of an excellent first match for Canada, and then I think he's form dipped. I think he actually ended up in the worst team in the tournament or something. Anyway, he was signed.
I mean, this is Cristiano Ronaldo, though. I mean, he was in good company, Russell.
Yeah, true. And Alistair Johnston from the World Cup comes to Celtic, and I think we've all been very impressed these couple of games. Then, interestingly, loses his place on Saturday to a person who the World Cup was very, very, very important to, or so it seemed, Josip Juranovic. Now, Josip Juranovic came in and I thought looked like a guy who'd cleared his headspace, Jonathan, from wherever he was. I don't know if it was mentally or, as I've said before, I think the bug may well have been getting downplayed by Ange because he doesn't run to excuses, right?
No.
But I wonder if he was maybe not well. Do you know what I mean? Because that performance, I don't mean not well dramatically, he probably just didn't feel right. Because that performance at Ibrox to what we seen at Hampden was chalk and cheese. Far, far better. But obviously, I think we signed Johnson on the basis Juranovic was leaving. And reality's kind of bit there. But the World Cup wasn't just important for those positions. I'm going to give you a more general. It's transformed, in my opinion, two guys who I don't think were having the best season up until the World Cup, yet have came back on fire. And that is Maeda and Moy. Now, one other aspect of this World Cup is we've seen a guy score 2 goals for South Korea called Cho. And he has been the first player I can think of under Ange where it's became a month-long sort of will he, won't he, being linked, batting his eyelids here, statements coming out saying, oh, he's taking his time, all this sort of nonsense with Celtic haggling over fees. It's the only player I can think of. So the World Cup, Jonathan's had quite a big impact on Celtic since it finished, hasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely has. I think if you're looking at it for who's impressed for me the most is certainly with Maeda. I think Maeda's came back and he's running on a lot of confidence based on how he played. And he had a good World Cup for Japan as well, by the way. And quite surprising because most of us thought, before the World Cup that Maeda was probably the least likely of the Japanese boys to get called up. If we were going to be, if we were the Japanese manager, we'd have probably taken Maeda last out of the Japanese players we have at our disposal.
You went Hatati, Kyogo, then Maeda, aye?
Yes, I probably in that order, you probably would. But I think Maeda's obviously that's really helped him. It's given him a shot in the arm. What I like about Maeda, probably more than a lot of the other players that we have, is I don't think he's one that gets too phased when things don't go his way too much. I'm not sure he's one of these types that will kind of be like, this isn't my day, it's not happening for me. If he misses a howler or whatever, you only have to look at that Hibs game a couple of weeks ago where he's fucking missing.
He's on his own wee bus. That's what we'll call it.
The Maeda bus.
He just plays in this wee bubble, like so blissfully unaware of how ridiculous at times his first touch could look, or how uncoordinated one of his finishes could be. He just, as you say, just carries on in his own wee Maeda land. It's great.
It's brilliant. And to be fair, I think because of the amount of work he puts in, he deserved that break for the goal that he got. It was very fortuitous opener, but the amount of hard work he puts in, he more than deserves it. And then, as I say, one of the goals that gets chopped off, which is dreadfully unlucky because it's so tightly offside call, even though it's the correct decision, it's some absolutely brilliant finish from Maeda. That's something that before the World Cup, I wouldn't have thought he was capable of finishing it quite as well as that. Because you remember we used to keep saying on this before the World Cup, he only scores scrappy goals. That was what we used to say about him. He might get a goal, but it's always got to be an ugly goal with him. Whereas now he's beginning to actually find his feet, and he's now actually feeling that he can actually score fucking goals from outside the box. He can hit top bins.
That one that was disallowed was a joke of a finish, John, right?
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's so good. It's so good, and I fair play to him because I think he's probably one that the fans have given a lot more criticism to than others. And I think he's, as I say, because he lives in his own little bus, as you've just rightly said. I don't think the criticism really got to him very much, and he's now shown why Ange Postecoglou wanted to bring him to the club 12 months ago, and he's proven that whilst he might not be as skillful or as industrious as some of the other wingers we have in the team, he's proven that he's still a key player. And I'll throw this one back to you. is obviously with Giakoumakis now looking like he's going today with these reports of a £3.5 million bid being accepted. Does this mean Maeda might now end up having to go through the middle? Because the Celtic still don't have another striker yet, Russell. The Cho deal looks like it could go either way. No other names being linked as of yet in a striking position. Are we going to have to go back to it and Dyson Maeda through the middle? And could he do the job for us there now that he's got his confidence up?
Be very interesting to know what people's take on that one is, because I think undeniably you would feel more confident now if Maeda was a striking option than what you would have pre-World Cup. The interesting thing though for me with that is, Jonathan, is this is where you can tie fans up in knots a wee bit on the signing policy thing, because undeniably, whether we know it for a fact or not, Jonathan, Giakoumakis is off ski, right? He's gone, right? So just accept it, just because it's not officially released yet. We're going to talk about it, right? He's off ski, and there isn't a replacement in the door. Now, I struggle to find that being smart. Where we've got to be honest, Johnston was brought in, and not right. This is it. This is the crunch of it, right? So when you see that, Juranovic, maybe he wasn't angling for a move. Maybe this was all part of the plan. So Celtic want to have 3 right backs, but just 1 striker. No, I think I've often said on the Juranovic situation, for example, that I've looked at it from his prism and thought maybe reality's bitten him a wee bit and he's not as good as he thinks he is. Let's flip that and say maybe reality's bit Celtic a wee bit with this one here. Maybe he's not quite as much of a live one as they thought. And they've put their eggs in one basket because they've brought in Johnston fully thinking Juranovic will be gone. I don't think anyone thought Juranovic would still be here on the 16th of January.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's a hard one there for Celtic, because we were applauding them and thinking it's great forward thinking from the club, because normally we wait till the player goes out the door before we buy the replacement in. And this is one of these rare circumstances where Celtic have actually proactively rather than reactively, which we always say as well, they actually were proactive on this occasion and had their right back source, expecting the big money to come for Juranovic, which has never materialised. But then they have a totally different policy up front, because I would imagine they would have known Giakoumakis has wanted out the building, because something's not right there. It's clear that something's not right behind the scenes, and we can speculate as to what that is as much as you want. But the bottom line is Giakoumakis doesn't fit with whatever Postecoglou is trying to build. And, that would have been identified months and months ago. And Postecoglou is not somebody who will have made that decision just in January in the last couple of weeks. He'll have been very methodical about this and known that Giakoumakis was most likely going to get sold, if not in this window, certainly in the summer. And it just seems it's a bit different, isn't it, Russell, really, from what he normally does, because apart from this Cho boy, there's nobody else really being linked as an option to come in up front.
Which is okay, because I don't mind us doing our business under the radar and the player just being linked the day before and then he's signed and you see him with the shirt. Brilliant, right? That's good business. That means we're keeping everything in-house and posting on social media. You know what I'm saying there. But in actual fact, this one blows the argument apart. Everyone is going to tell, we've got a plan. We've always got a plan. Well, the plan hasn't quite worked out, let's be honest, because the plan was to have 1 striker and 3 right backs on the 17th of January. Don't kid yourself on. Now, of course, if you say that, Jonathan, that means you're flapping. You're panicking. I'm okay. Just an observation. The plan, I am convinced, would not have been 3 right backs, 1 main striker on the 17th of Jan. I don't think that was part of the plan, Jonathan. I think people think as well that in January football stops, Jonathan, because the transfer window's open. We've got football games to be playing here. Kyogo picks up an injury tomorrow in training.
Do you think he's got lucky with the fact Maeda's now found a bit of form at the World Cup that he can now almost turn around? He could end up shuffling him in one, and he could end up being quite good through the middle now that he's got his confidence. He's had a bit of form. It could end up looking like, the plan was always Maeda was going to go into that position. I don't think that's quite exactly how it's been planned out at all, by the way. But there is the opportunity for that narrative to be written if, Kyogo was to get injured, and they can say, Angelo's kind of like putting him through the middle. He played through the middle Maeda for Japan at the World Cup, and maybe Postecoglou watched his games during the World Cup and thought, you know what, he could probably still do a job for me through there. I'm actually a bit more relaxed about the striking positions, because we know with Postecoglou what has been very clear the whole time he's been there. Kyogo's number one choice up front. It's pretty much it's straightforward. It's very simple. If Kyogo is fit, Kyogo starts. We know this from just watching it this season. Even when he's not in form, Kyogo is one of the first names on Postecoglou's team sheet, and I don't anticipate that he's going to be changing that in the immediate future unless he has to. As long as Kyogo's fit, Kyogo starts, which makes it a bit harder if you're going to bring another striker in as well, Russell, because then you've got to then make them feel that they can actually compete for that jersey. And they're going to be looking at a guy like Giakoumakis, who, by the way, hasn't done much wrong on the pitch. Whatever's happened off the pitch is something that's clearly...
I thought he was very good on Saturday when he came on as well.
Between the teeth, I thought, on Saturday. But to be fair to him, I've not really seen him showing too many signs of like checking out. Like, some people can turn around and say, oh, the guy wants out, and he's showing signs of that when he's been playing. I think Giakoumakis has applied himself excellently when he's been on the pitch, even though he's only getting a limited amount of game time. He strikes me as somebody that's still emotionally invested in the club.
Jonathan, I want my players pissed off if they're not getting game time. I want them annoyed. And I feel it's been a wee bit of I think there's a wee bit of naughtiness that goes on with. I think deep down in your heart of hearts, we all know Giakoumakis is worth more than £3.5 million, right? He cost 2.6, 2.7. He's probably earned in wages 500, 600 grand. Probably got a signing on fee of a couple of £100,000. We're not making any profit on him here. So it's just, all we've got is our money back on him. For a guy who was top scorer in the second half of last season, became the league top scorer. For a guy who's still got brilliant numbers this season despite never getting starts. I think people want to use the money argument because they know deep down they don't want to accept this looks weird. This looks like a deal that doesn't really on a footballing level make all that much sense. And because Ange Postecoglou is the most protected person in the world, no one can say he ever gets anything wrong. No one can bring themselves to do it. So it flips onto the player. And it's greedy bastard I'm seeing on Twitter and things like that. Get shot. I struggle with that. The only time I've seen him pissed off is when he's coming on as a sub with 10 minutes to go. And I don't mind whatsoever a player being pissed off, Jonathan, and not getting game time. I'm all for that. And I feel the money one on Giakoumakis, I think, is maybe a convenient narrative to go down because you can't accept what you're actually seeing. And you're seeing a player maybe being slightly unfairly treated for the first time in the Ange regime, you could probably argue as well.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think for me, I think Giakoumakis has always applied himself well. I think even when you see the fact he scores, he's still whipping his top off. Absolutely delighted to have got the goal that sent us through to the final. It's not as if he was like sulking or not making much of a fuss about it. I still think there's a part of me that still thinks Giakoumakis would like to have stayed at the club, but for whatever reason behind the scenes, it's not worked out. Because he's always put in a shift, and Postecoglou actually said as much in his post-match interview about both him and Juranovic, that they both were still training well and they both understood their roles. I think Giakoumakis naturally does get a bit more frustrated when he's not in the first team, and I think that's a good thing. You need competition for places. You want players to be a bit frustrated if they're not getting in the team. If they're just going to accept that they're never going to push themselves on to actually want to get it, because then that means they don't care. That means they don't care, and that is when they've checked out. It's because and
that is the definition of a money grabber.
Mm-hmm.
That is what a money grabber is. So you can't have it both ways, Jono. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so. I think that's just been a simple case that I think Giakoumakis. I'd imagine he must be a big character to deal with. I think Postecoglou looks at personalities very closely, as he's alluded to when he does transfer deals. I don't know if this one's maybe one that he's actually sourced Giakoumakis or not. Because it sounds like he does a lot more due diligence into the actual personality of the player in question as well. And for whatever reason, I don't think those two personalities, Giakoumakis and Postecoglou's, necessarily mix as well as it does with other players in the team that Ange Postecoglou looks at. And I wonder if that's perhaps why he's been... Yeah, I absolutely.
It's his gift to do that, and I don't need to agree with everything Ange does. Neither do you. We're just giving our opinion as well, of course. But I think Ange knows a bit more than you. I know he does. That's why he's a successful football manager. And I drink cans of Stella talking shite to 182 people right now on YouTube. Right? That's it. It doesn't mean that you need to agree with everything.
No, absolutely not.
I find it curious, though, that, we've stockpiled in the right back area And some are now trying to say, oh, maybe we were never selling Juranovic and that was all lies. Yeah, okay. We stockpile 3 right backs.
What the fuck do you think they're going to do with Tony Ralston if they were doing that? Because it's not as if he's going to be gaining any interest from anyone. You know, it's not as if he's even had much game time at all this season. I know he's had a few injuries, and he's probably been a bit unfortunate not to have had a little bit more game time than he's had. But, you know, there's going to be no danger anyone's going to be looking at Tony Ralston. So he's going to be your second choice right back. That's clearly the plan. Juranovic out, Johnston in. And Ralston keeps his position as the number 2 right back to push Johnston on, and that makes sense. And I think we've applauded that on this channel before, you know, for the fact that was a bit of forward thinking from the board. Unfortunately, it seems to have backfired spectacularly because the interest in Juranovic isn't there. It's not. It's these £20 million transfer rumours we were talking about last month. They don't exist. they're not even close to the figures being quoted. So I think we were expecting more on the Juranovic one, but with that not happening, we've now ended up actually in a position where we're going to possibly have to take less money than we want for him. I think that's actually an almost certainty that we'll end up cashing out cheaper than we thought we were going to get for him.
How much is Chaos Giakoumakis worth?
I mean, I think if you give him a proper...
You accept that he's going in January, right? You're saying, right, we're going to sell him January. Realistically, obviously, we know you can only get what a club's willing to bid. But I then think, you know, maybe you could be diving in. He's on a long-term deal still. Still 3.5 years of his contract left, Jonathan. 3.5 million seems bizarre.
The money involved there just seems completely off. It's almost a case of just want him out the door. And we'll just take whatever we can get for him when you're taking prices at that low level of interest. But when you're looking at it, I just don't understand this one at all with Giakoumakis and that sort of money that's going to be involved. Because Giakoumakis, for me, I think the optics, Russell, look a bit off with it. And I think that's the optics if another club's looking to buy and they're seeing that Giakoumakis has very rarely started a game this season. And, you know, even when he's actually doing everything right, because there's been spells even in this first half of the season when he was scoring goals off the bench, you know, he's still quite high up the goal scoring charts for us, even despite his lack of minutes. But I think people will look at that and think, well, he's not fancied at Celtic, and that's obviously naturally going to depreciate his value. For me, you know, if you've got Giakoumakis playing every week, scoring goals for fun, because that's what he would do if he'd got a consistent run in the team, for me, he would have certainly, I think, offered us more at Ibrox than Kyogo did from the start. Granted, Kyogo gets the goal late on. You know, I would say Giakoumakis should have been looking at £10 million plus if he'd been given a fair crack at the whip. I don't think that's unrealistic whatsoever in today's market.
Have Celtic driven down his value?
Yes, I would say they have. Because they haven't used them enough. I don't think $3.5 million is what his value sits at. I would say you're probably looking more about 6, 7, probably in the same around as Juranovic now, and that's purely because Celtic haven't used him enough to put him in the shop window, and it just looks like he's surplus the requirements. And you know, if you're an interested club and you are thinking, well, they just want him off the books, naturally you're not going to want to pay any more than you think you need to. And you know, this £3.5 million bid from this Japanese club, they're obviously tested the waters, and Celtic have bitten at the first bid that came in by the looks of it. So I think there must be something going on in the background. Postecoglou wants him out, which is, as you rightly say, is gift, but the money involved seems very, very low to me. Yeah,
it absolutely does to me as well. I mean, and as well, I know a lot of people are saying, you know, Ange says only X amount of percent of these transfer rumours are true. That's convenient when the transfer rumours don't sound all that favourable right now. I think that's funny as well. I mean, come on. He's controlling a wee bit of that narrative too. And obviously everyone will lap up every single word he says is gospel. I'm maybe a wee bit more cynical than that, Jonathan. And I think when deals like for Cho have fallen through and Giakoumakis has been sold for peanuts, then of course it suits to go. And Juranovic is still in the building as one of 3 right backs. Of course you're going to say, oh, well, the transfer speculation isn't true anyway. Come on. That's basics. That's basic psychology. I would have said the exact same. Now, Monty says Frank McGarvey's service today was very moving. The priest was great, and the eulogy from Frank's son was brilliant. A lot of tears shed today for a childhood hero of mine, R.I.P. Frankie, but could not have said it better, Monty. With Frank McGarvey laid to rest before my time, unfortunately. But I think
It was on the. Remember we had that VHS Celtic's greatest moments or something.
Yes.
I think he scores once or twice in that and the old
He got over
the old
100
collection.
goals.
Aye.
Celtic, so
Oh, aye.
no mug at all
Absolutely not.
as a player, and it was quite moving when you'd seen him on the when he came on. Was it half time? He came on, or was it before the game? One of the two. About
It was Hibs game recently. Yeah, the Hibs game. I was at it. Yeah, he came on at half time.
Very emotional. That
Yeah.
kind of, that touched you as well. May he rest in peace. Absolutely. But Jonathan, one thing we're not going to be doing is having peace because war is about to break out. It's time to have Phil McGinley to the
I know we
show.
talk about politics a lot, Russell. It's now time for question time with Phil.
War is about to break out. That's one way of putting it. The way he used Schwab on a Monday night. It's good entertainment, though. It's good
I've shaved the head
entertainment.
a wee bit for this one. I'm channeling my inner Scott Brown this week after last week's disaster.
Someone said in the comments, you look like you've got eyelashes at the top of your head.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see.
We will.
How you doing, boys? He's ready. He's excited for another round of Sutton Death.
Comments are off.
Oh,
Done.
yes, mine are already off. Yes. But looking forward
Come on.
to this, as always. My favourite part of the week, Phil.
Oh, good stuff, good stuff. Because, yeah, for the people in the chat, if you've not been paying attention, it's been an epic battle so far between the Borough's boys. We've had 13 rounds so far. It is 7-6 to Russell. At one point, it was 6-2 to Russell. Got it back to 6-6. We even like a 4-point lead couldn't be safe in this series because we've still got a long way to go. We're only about bloody halfway through at this stage. There's still a long way to go this season. But yeah, the current score is 7-6 to Russell. So yes, it is a penalty shootout formatted competition.
Come
5
on,
shots
son.
each for the boys. And yeah, I've got a question with multiple answers. Obviously, they give me a right answer, they score. And if they give me a wrong answer, they miss. So it's that simple. And of course, if they are still tied after 10 guesses, because I don't want to keep them here all night, I will have a tiebreaker question to decide the point. So Russell's already changed the background. Nice one, mate. Nice one. That's one of the aesthetics done.
On the ball.
Good.
He's got his pen and his paper out again.
I knew you'd mention the pen.
I'm just wondering. There's nothing on your paper, is there? I just want to make sure that there's not like some sort of underhanded deals done, and you've got like a list of answers. That you just think about it for 5 minutes, and like, oh, actually, I'll just take that one off my list.
Oh, come on. I'll behave. No, it's like my desk is a white desk, so you just write on the desk and then wipe it off. Deliberately format. Very clever.
Just leave them to it, folks. Yes, we'll use a squabbling. I will start the music because we need the tension music to build it up. So here we go. Okay, I know the answer to this, but Russell, are you going to go first this week since you got the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. If you wanted to strangle me last week with that question, you're going to want to strangle me even more this week because this one's a stinker of a question.
Oh, you're
well.
But I'll say this. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think there's going to be a lot of shots in the dark here. But the crucial thing for you boys, as long as you get one more point than the other, that's all that matters. If we 1-0, 2-1, who cares?
True.
But guys,
win.
we did do a question that was this format before where it was a case of guess the players that were in a particular team. So you might remember the last time we did it, it was the epic game against Aberdeen that won us the invincible treble, a real moment in Celtic history. Today I've went to the opposite end of the spectrum. I've went and found
St Mirren or something at home in 2005.
It's going to be Bratislava.
I have picked an obscure game, but it was a win. It was a win. We're going back to 2009, guys. Because in 2009, in the summer, Celtic won the prestigious Wembley
Cup
to kick off Tony Mowbray's reign as manager.
I remember watching that.
With a 2-0 victory over Tottenham Hotspur. So tonight's question, there are 16 answers. 11 players started the game and 5 substitutes came on during the game. I'm just looking for any player from that match. It is going to be a night of shots in the dark, folks.
Okay. Ready to go?
Whenever you're ready, Russell, you're up first, mate. So you just, whenever you're ready, mate.
Donati.
Donati is an unused substitute in the game. That is a miss.
Against Arsenal.
Oh, not in that game.
Nobody. Yeah, nobody. It's the friendly against Tottenham
Oh
Hotspur.
God, it was
that
the
won.
qualifier he scored against Arsenal, wasn't it? Was it a qualifier he scored it?
He scored against
Yeah.
Arsenal, but yeah, this is the friendly, the Wembley Cup.
Aye.
So Russell starts with a miss, and that he was an unused substitute in the game.
Unusual. I'll try Scott Brown.
Scott Brown was not in the squad. He wasn't even in the squad. He wasn't an unused sub, not in the bench.
Wow.
So that is a miss. That is a
Injured or
first.
something.
He
Okay,
might very well be. He might have been. But,
Okay.
not.
okay. Danny Fox.
Danny
That's good.
Fox is a correct answer. First
Yes!
point on the board.
I can't remember if he played in this one or not, but I think he scored in this tournament. Chris Killen.
Chris
My
Gillen
God.
is a correct answer.
We're not going
Did he
for the
score?
obvious ones, are we?
Did he score, Chris Killen? I think he did.
Is it a right answer or wrong?
Chris Gillen
right.
is a correct answer, yeah. Correct answer. He scored in that game. He did.
Oh,
He
yeah, I
scored.
thought he did.
Nguemo?
Oh, I was going to say him.
Landry Nguemo is an unused substitute. He didn't get on
What
the
is
Oh, you're
start.
that?
hitting the post.
What is wrong
He
with
was
him,
an
man?
unused sub as well. Oh man. Oh.
I think this guy might have scored as well in this tournament. It's random. Glenn Luvins?
Oh, good. Very good.
Glenn Luvins didn't
Right.
score in this game, but he did play, so he is a correct
Oh,
answer. Glenn
yes.
Luvins gives you the lead, Jonathan.
Samaras?
Samaras was the other goal scorer in the game, so he is a correct answer.
I'm wondering who is in goals. Zaluska? Is it Lucas Zaluska?
Lucas Zaluska is a correct answer. He played in that game. Yes, he is correct. Russell, you need to score this to salvage, to take it to the last kick.
Okay. Hoyveld.
Jos Hoyveld is an incorrect answer. Jonathan
he's back.
tied it at 7 apiece.
I'm thinking of all the
my-
players he played that season. What did he do? Put out the reserves or something in this
So,
game?
Andreas Hinkle, was he on it? He's going to be
Andreas
back.
Hinkle, unused substitute. Here are the
He
players.
played it. What did he do here
And they
from?
beat
Just play like
Tottenham
a kid,
2-0.
Cy
They
Ferry or something?
They beat Cy Ferry was a correct answer.
That's
Yes.
what I mean. Like, this is all the shite.
This is the
I
team
love
that you
this
played
question.
that beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-0. So shame on Tottenham. So other than the ones that you've already got, the other names were Darren Adee, Gary Caldwell came on as a sub, Koki Mizuno started the game, Mark Rosas started the game, Niall McGinn came off the bench, Paddy
what I mean?
McCourt started the game,
Oh,
Paul
he
McGowan was a
taking the
sub,
piss.
Paul
was taking-
Caddis, Simon Ferry was a sub,
Caddis.
Willow Flood started the game, and the
Willow
one that I don't
Flood.
think anybody would have got was Ryan Conroy, one of the reserves. He would have been the real obscure one, but Jesus,
Hell.
that was a tough one, a low scoring
we
one as I
were-
thought.
To be fair, we did quite well getting 5 there, I think, Russell, to be honest.
You
That was,
did.
Patronise me, you shit. Honestly,
you did well.
I
Good
think,
game.
I think the Boyce'S contributors could give that Celtic team a run. Honestly.
That team was stinking, but yeah, somehow they beat Tottenham 2-0.
How?
I don't know how. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that either. I remember watching that and thinking this is going to be a good season this season.
Same.
Oh, how wrong I was.
Same. They always put the reserves out against a Premier League side and won pretty comfortably. You're like, oh, this is going to be a good either under Mowbray. No, it couldn't be further from the truth. It was absolutely horrendous. But yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
thinking.
That was rank rotten.
That was a hard
I was
one.
giving Mowbray far too much credit.
Mhm.
I thought he might have actually, wanted to do well at Celtic, not just experiment for the banter.
Aye, that was
What is he doing? Taking bungs on how to play the worst ever Celtic side in history. What is
But
this
But they won the
about?
prestigious
They
Wembley
won.
Cup for the result
Maybe
of
if
that.
he played that team that season, they might have won the league or something.
Hey,
Russell.
let me
Maybe
just
that-
tell you one thing. No, he wouldn't have. He would have fuck all that team.
Darren Adee was the captain that day. He had to go up
You know what
all
I
the
mean?
Wembley steps and the most low energy trophy lift you will ever see. It was like he just didn't want to even be there. It just
Even he
looked-
was embarrassed.
Yeah, he was embarrassed.
by
Aye,
the team.
aye.
Like, fucking hell, man.
But there you go. That's tonight's Sutton Death. It is now 7 apiece. Well, there we go.
Back level.
Epic stuff.
Back level. Well
Back
done.
level. The game will continue on. Oh, yes. I think this is going to go right to the wire, Russell.
Of course it is, mate. Of course it's going right to There'll be no TikTok from me about this competition anyway, because this is going to the wire. I'm not feeling
This is more
confident about
important
this.
than the League Cup final for me.
Anyway, that brings us to the end of the Monday Club. Don't worry, it's not a 3-hour show today. I'm fucking sick of talking. I'm sick of my own voice. But we will be back this week. We're going to do some PMP on Wednesday. There'll be a bus stop going out at some point. We're going to do Judgment Day as well. So please, whilst there's 175 of you watching, go onto the community page on the channel and get your questions in for the judge. We're going to be recording that probably tomorrow evening, if possible. So get your questions in, and we'll and the judge will field 3 of them, and we'll get that shared this week as well. On top of that, we've got the TNF obviously on Thursday. Phil, anything exciting happening in Bustalgia this week? Are you worked that out yet?
Oh, yes. I can show you. We are going back to the 90s, one of the few seasons we've not done in the 90s, and it will be this Dr. Joseph Venglos. 1999 season. Okay, ultimately Celtic didn't win anything that season, but there's a lot to talk about there. You know, Dr. Joe's legacy. The players that he signed, obviously Moravchik. We'll have the curious case of Mark Viduka, who was Marco Viduka when he joined.
Yes.
Disappeared for 2 months and came back as saying, I want to be now known as Mark Viduka. Okay, then. Nobody cares, mate. You know,
one of those folk as well who's total rewritten history. Do you know what I mean? Like, see, when everybody gets interviewed, he's like, "Oh, I love my time at Celtic. What a great club." I'm like, "Did you fuck nonsense?"
Aye.
What was I going to say as well? I never did all that good stuff. So there's still 160 watching live. Please hit that like button for us. Get the traction across the YouTube. Get the algorithm. If you've not subscribed yet, click the subscribe button. Hit the bell. Get notifications. If you want to become a Boyce'S member, the likes of Scott Howe, Patrick McLaughlin, Gary Brown, Martin Kay all have. It is completely optional. It helps keep the wheels on the bus, and keeps the show in town. So yes, feel free to do that if you so wish. Big thanks to Jonathan Boyce, Phil McGinley. As always, it's been good fun on the bus. This has been the Monday Club. It has been.
What's Chris Sutton got to say about it, Russell? What's Chris Sutton got to say?
Well, he definitely won't be singing Tina Turner tonight, Phil.
No, I won't be singing Tina Turner on the culture tonight. In fact, I think I might have a Sutton Death. Good night.
Well, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.